Newcastle, hub of the northeast.
This is the home of the Geordies, who boast that they build the best ships and sing the best songs in the world.
Well, I didn't realise there were so many hippie-type people in Newcastle. It rather amazed me.
Trying to belittle people that struggle.
I'm not trying to belittle people. I'm trying to understand.
You've got
like.
more money than sense.
The charm of Newcastle lies in its virility. The four great bridges overriding the city, the busy station set close by the castle which gives the town its name. Yes, virility with a capital V, that's Newcastle.
The new Tyne Bridge was opened by His Majesty King George in October 1928. On it, the great bridge across Sydney Harbour has been modelled.
The superb steel bridge is a symbol of the industrial power that built the city and of the men who did it.
We can next contrast the height of this magnificent bridge with the lowly swing bridge, which we see in the act of opening to admit shipping to pass through.
Seems like Bridgeland is forever. It's lovely, lovely, lovely. Now this is the newest one over here. It's called the Millennium Bridge and it's designed to look like an eye. The top is arched like so and the bottom bit comes up to let things under it and then, so it's like an eye opening and closing. That's the sort of thought behind it, which is rather lovely, I think.
Spencer's installations usually take place at dawn, so from now on he'll be thinking about the light and where to put all the naked people.
The key for me to find some harmony with my work in the city was to get up high and see it from a vantage point of the bridges. Once I was on top of the bridges, I saw what I wanted to. I saw this sort of dreamland, a city that was tunnels and pipes and bricks and rooftops. Then I became fascinated and enthralled that I was working here. A little bit quicker. Now slow down a little. This is beautiful.
Sunday morning on Newcastle Quayside, is another of the Geordie's relaxations. Here is all the bustle of a street fair, where strong men provide amusement and traders the necessities and luxuries of life at as low a cost as you could find anywhere.
Make it 5 shillings, and believe me, I'll treat you. You said 5, sir. Gentleman there says 5 shillings. Who will make it 5 and 6?
There was something for everyone. Is it easy to get fixed onto a car? Essential goodies like plastic music boxes and Mars bars and mice.
There's the ET cubes up for 50 pence. All the crowns made in England, all a pound to get them.
Thanks. I'm the cheapest in the business. I give you bargains wherever you say. A beautiful choker like that, 40 pence. I mean it.
Who'd give me 6 on that coat?
The face of Newcastle has changed since this ballad was first sung over 100 years ago. But many of the old landmarks remain. So too, along the waterfront, do the descendants of the keelmen who form the subject of the song.
You've really got your daddy's chin. You are like him, leg and wing. And with pleasure can he sing, since there belongs me Johnny. Johnny is a clever lad, last night he fuddled all he had. This morn he wasn't very bad, he looked as blithe as Johnny.
Arriving to perform a launching ceremony, the Duchess of Kent first talked with the lifeboat crew. Then the launch at Tyne.
I name this ship World Harmony. May God bless her and all who sail in her.
The past is laid out on the banks of the Tyne, and it's mostly in ruins. There is some shipbuilding left at Swan Hunter's Yard, but it would be foolish to say that they're inundated with orders. They've built 6 ships this year, and a replacement for the Atlantic conveyor lost during the Falklands War. We could blame lack of investment, foreign competition, rising costs, but it won't alter the fact that these men are the last of their breed.
The River Tyne is full of interest and is noted for its many bridges and numerous industrial activities. This is a typical day on the quayside. Here we see a general cargo unloading, and we're fortunate enough to strike a consignment of tea, our national beverage, on its way to Algernon Road, the home of Ringtons Limited, the tea merchants. The vans are here seen ready to start their day's journey. As they move off, it seems as if each horse is eager and proud to distribute its aromatic load. We will let this scene speak for itself. Your tea, madam.
Today, the Northerners extend to the President the freedom of the city of Newcastle. The President touches Geordie hearts when he opens his speech of thanks with the Tyneside football war cry.
How are the lads? Wanted to start immediately. Toaster claggers can warmer, bidden consultant or fish fryers butterbugger. So it's chat as a piece from Scott Dobson and keep a hat. Well, the language I was speaking there is Geordie, and the people who speak it are Geordies, and they live in Geordie land. Don't forget the Geordies, not Scots, not English. And the truth of the matter is that the Geordies, well, they don't want to be either. They feel a race apart.
Come on, baby, let the good times roll. Come on, baby, let me thrill your soul. Come on, baby, let the good times roll. Roll all night long.
Some people are critical of what they see as the Geordie cult, holding on to speech, events and customs that would be better forgotten. But these things are the outward signs of Geordie solidarity, as well as being the firm foundation of Geordie humour.
The Geordie can laugh at himself, and he had nothing to laugh about really, just hard times, so therefore his humour had to be hard and caustic and brittle, and I think this is the power of Geordie humour, if you like to put it that way. It makes it so different from the slick sort of stuff that you hear nowadays, you know.
Yeah. I wonder if you could give us some examples of that sort of humour, Dick.
When I was young, we used to think knives and forks were jewellery, you know. And my granny every Tuesday used to stand in front of the mangle taking the bones out of her corset so we could have a pan of broth, you see. It was the only day in the week we got spare rib, actually.
Well, man, if you pay what you owe, you'll never hand out. Let them worry that wants it off you.
There are those who see Bobby Thompson as the last of the great Geordie comics. But last or not, he's certainly among the best. His long-playing record is the best-selling record in Newcastle, outdoing the Police, even Adam and the Ants.
Well, I'll tell you, my wife got a ticket out to go voting the council elections last week. That Conservative, what a lovely-looking man. I says, come in here, you're two-faced looking, but come in here. I says, you haven't voted for the Tory, have you? She says, no, across the moon. Yeah.
Once the black and white passport is issued, you still have to learn the language.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Comment ça va?
Hey. Welcome to the tune.
Now is some problem with Byker Brewery, and it's too difficult now.
You're not talking about a football club, you're talking about a way of life. In a depressed area, the people need something to cling on to, and this is a depressed area. Everything's affected by Newcastle United, everything. And as a man who owns his own company, I can show my workers on a Monday, without even going down and looking at the results, I can tell you whether Newcastle has won or not.
And Jack Milburn headed through.
No fans are more loyal than the Geordies of St James's Park.
For football, there's something here that you can't create in many places in the world. There's a passion and an understanding of football.
The people of Tyneside have a strong Christian faith, which is just as well. They face a new and grave challenge to their beliefs. Newcastle United have been relegated.
Despite the adversities and disappointments which we have sustained through the misfortunes of our football team, Newcastle United, we may not turn aside from them, but remembering their past glory, we may support them until that glory is regained. As a true supporter with other supporters, we believe that despite the troubles, there is an afterlife. And while they may sojourn for a while in purgatory, they will rise again, and we shall rejoice with the saints.
The winning goal was the perfect execution for an evening of promotion party. A year in the Championship wilderness ending in fine style.
We are back where we belong.
100 years ago, George Ridley, an ex-miner, stood up at Downborough's Music Hall in Newcastle and sang a composition of his own, which later became known as Blaydon Races. Mr. Gatescore was there to join the song's centenary celebrations. The occasion called for a queen, and Sheila MacFarlane was chosen. After what in the song was a very eventful journey, the 5-mile trek comes to an end as the procession approaches Blaydon. But the bookies are there for serious business. 100 years ago, only one horse turned up for the scheduled start. Fortunately, it was different this year. To end the celebrations, fireworks provide a fitting finale, bursting into a chorus of their own.
The Kingdom of the Three Rivers, Tyne, Wear and Tees, has known hard times. But after a generation of stalemate, the Northeast is news. And no one bangs a louder drum for progress than Dan Smith. He's a successful businessman with a 5-figure salary, has led Newcastle Council for 5 years, and drives a Mark 10 Jag in his new role as chairman of the Northern Region Economic Planning Council. Dan Smith is determined to redress the balance between an affluent south and an impoverished north.
Smith wanted to build a regional capital for the Northeast, preserving the best of the old, but bringing in revolutionary new ideas and designs. Newcastle was to be a motorway city full of pedestrian precincts and cultural centres. It was to startle the world by leaping unexpectedly into the 21st century. 15 years ago, almost half the people here lived in slums. Dan made it his job to knock them down.
Byker was a unique working-class community which had grown naturally out of the industry and commerce of the River Tyne.
I've always lived in Byker. And my mother used to live in the next street. It used to be a nice street. Oh, I wish I was out of it now. Nothing to look at now.
The old working-class community was a friendly jumble of terraces. Then the cold graveyard wind of demolition blew all that away, bringing the promise of a better, brighter place to live. Jean has lived in this street all her life. The memories still crowd round her.
My granddaughter was born and my husband died here. There's a lot of happy memories in this house, which there won't be when I get a new house. It's going to be all new and strange.
The Byker scheme, bold, imaginative, it was to sweep away the dour terraces and replace them with an environment that was light, colourful and alive with the breath of gardens and trees.
It's taken me over 12 months to get really settled in. I'm feeling more settled now. I mean, I've never had a garden in my life.
Well, I think it's not as like the streets. Yeah, you seem further apart, you know.
19, number 3 by itself, 1440.
Number 4, house. House that one.
It was possibly 4 or 5 years after I left the council that this began. There was nothing that finished in Newcastle while I was there that came out of, if you like, my fertile mind. All that I did, if you like, was to talk about making it the Venice of the North, and people still laugh at me when I say that. But I reckon that this is the Venice of the North.
The tragedy of Dan Smith is that he had so much to offer. He was a hero to millions, and yet he used his power illegally for business profit. In Leeds criminal court, T. Dan Smith pleaded guilty to 2 charges of conspiracy and 4 of corruption. In the 60s, he was Mr. Newcastle, the saviour of the North East. Now he's publicly disgraced.
One afternoon a week at Newcastle on Tyne sees dozens of girl war workers and shop assistants learning to play tennis. Instruction is in the capable hands of the county captain of Durham, Miss Doris Davison. They get a good grip on the game and appear to be thoroughly enjoying themselves.
Tyneside entertainment comes no more raw and uncomplicated than at the Hoppings. For a fortnight, the town moor, a stone's throw from the city centre, is given over to what's claimed to be the largest fair in Europe. Conceived as a temperance festival to win Geordies away from the drunken delights of Newcastle races.
These men aren't delivering a bulk order of cornets and wafers. They are, quite simply, the coolest property in the record business. The Dragoni brothers are taking a couple of hours off from the Sarsaparilla and the Double 99s to record their first disc, Faith of Our Fathers. They've suddenly, through Frank Woppert, found the right recipe for a hit single.
As the boys are Italian Geordies, I thought, well, obviously good Catholics, they'll know Faith of Our Fathers, you see. And I said, do you know it? They said, yeah. I said, come on, try this arrangement. But they said, the priest will never like this. Never mind the priest, you're doing it for BBC, you know, let it roll. And we did it.
But stardom is still a long way off. And in the meantime, there's a business to run. After a 2-hour session licking the product into shape, the Dragoni brothers are off on the road again, not quite in the usual pop group sense.
The lights go on in the city and neon signs write their bold signatures on the sky. Somewhere to go for an evening out, they say, somewhere to drink and dine and dance.
There was one big playground and everyone had come out to join in the games.
Right, if you're ready for it.
Are we ready, Newcastle?
It's a scene that's absolutely unique, anywhere that I've ever seen. And coming into a policing area like this, I mean, they come down in fancy dress and all sorts. And when you see them down here on a Friday and Saturday night, in that fancy dress, absolutely anything, you know, I'd be amazed what they come up to. They're simply out for pleasure. Simply out for pleasure to have a good time. And if they're out to have a good time and go home, who are we to say otherwise? We're quite happy.
If they brought national service back for some of these kids, they would be better off because there wouldn't be string to the mother's apron strings. When I was young and I was working, I used to have to bring my wage packet in unopened. And then my mother gave us what she thought was fit.
The Geordie's cockiness, his pride, his humour, the whole hodgepodge of ingredients which make up the man was spawned in places like this Byker pub. The guts of the people come from districts like this. There's no television set in the pub, no demand for a plush lounge or a cocktail bar, and the entertainment's homegrown.
Stars shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you. Birds singing in the sycamore tree. Dream a little dream of me. Say nighty-night and kiss me. Just hold me tight and tell me you'll miss me while I'm alone and blue as can be. Dream a little dream of me. Stars fading, but I linger on.
Our new two-parter, People's Palaces, The Golden Age of Civic Architecture, is here on BBC4 tomorrow from 9. And on Tuesday at 9, we go back to 1960 for the Year of the North with Time Shift. Next tonight, though, stay with us for a journey back to Newcastle with Michael Smith.